Good evening, everyone. This is Bruce Dumont. We are in Chicago, and our phone lines are open at 1-800-723-8289. That's 1-800-723-8289. And we are looking for your response to the debate that you have just seen from Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. And again, it was a long, long debate. And wherever you're listening, our phone number, remember, 1-800-723-8289. 1-800-723-8289. That's the number you'll see flashed across the screen for quite a while, because we want to take as many calls as possible. If you were a big fan of one candidate or the other, we ask that you don't call in and give us a campaign speech, but call us and give us your instant analysis of what you think made sense this evening. I think one of the big news stories that came out late in the debate was that Donald Trump unequivocally said he's going to stay in the Republican Party. And for those people that have been concerned, and it's been quite flirtatious over the last couple of weeks, that maybe he would take his marbles and go home if he was not treated well by the RNC, basically, they heard tonight that he wants to be a Republican. And so all this talk about whether or not there's going to be a backroom deal and whether there's going to be, problems, maybe an attempt to stop Donald Trump at the convention in Cleveland next year, those appear to be stories in the rearview mirror now, because Donald Trump said absolutely that he will stay in the Republican Party. Also, we should mention that before this debate, there was a lot of anticipation that there would be a lot of battle between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. They would try to rough each other up. Well, that did not happen at all. In fact, they were very affable towards the end of the program, Trump going over and slapping Ted Cruz on the back. But again, I think the one thing that, again, wasn't too much of a surprise was that Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio spent most of the night in sort of senatorial debate, point by point, as two great debaters, and we saw a lot of their interaction this evening, as well as some spats that broke out between Rand Paul and also Chris Christie. 1-800-723-8289. Let's go to Kansas City to get reaction from George. Go ahead, George. You're on the air.
Hi, Bruce. Doing a great job tonight by coming up so fast with a post-mortem on this. I basically have four things that I saw in this debate tonight. Number one, I think we could have renamed it practically the Donald Trump Show. I noticed that he did not have an intense defense of his ideas, unlike most of the other people up on the stage.
Right.
And I thought, why is that? And the answer is because he didn't have to, because he is so far ahead of the polls. He is the center of attention and was the focal point, and frankly, I was a little surprised that the moderators spent so much time opening up their questions to other contenders with Mr. Trump said this, Mr. Trump has this opinion,
Right.
and so on.
Which happened in the earlier debate as well. I would say probably 40% of the questions started with that as a preamble, responding to Trump.
Bruce, were you as surprised as I was at the announcement, which, if the timing was any better, I would have said was orchestrated, where near the tail end of the debate, Trump said he had made the announcement, actually, that he was going to stay a Republican who withdraw his possible independent run for the office.
No, when, as I said just a few moments ago, that was the big news story of the night, and he saved it to the last 3 minutes of the debate. And so I think that answers a lot of questions, and I think there's a lot of people, there are some establishment Republicans that are going to breathe a sigh of relief, and yet in the other case, there's a lot of people that may be reacting just the opposite way, that maybe this was an opportunity for Donald Trump to say farewell. But he's going to be around. He didn't get roughed up too much tonight. Certainly the animosity between he and Jeb Bush was very apparent. I thought that Jeb Bush was stronger tonight than he has been in previous debates, but we want to get reaction from people around the country at 1-800-723-8289. Nice to hear from Kansas City. We move on to Craig, listening to us in Mount Prospect, Illinois. Go ahead.
Hello, Bruce.
Hello.
I thought Mr. Cruz, Senator Cruz, really was filibustering during part of the show.
Yes.
He didn't seem to build his background, but his his chief antagonist, I guess, was Rubio, who really looked more presidential. He really had a lot of answers.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think Chris Christie made the point, and then Carly Fiorina made the point at a couple of times during the debate that what we were watching was really an example of senatorial debate. Throw a Rand Paul into that discussion as well, that this is what they do, is they get together and they talk and they talk and they talk, but they're not really talking with issues, and they're not dealing with things like a governor would make. That was certainly a point that Chris Christie made over and over again. But I would say that, and I try to, in some cases, kind of close my eyes as I'm watching the debate to find out who is impressing me with whether it's what they say or the amount of time that they're on. And it seemed to me that there was no flub line for Marco Rubio, other than from a political standpoint. I don't think he gave a good response and a good defense to his past positions on immigration, which politically could be very hurtful to him. Was there anything on the foreign policy field or the military field, Craig, that made you shudder?
I think finding out that Cruz actually said no to the National Defense Act, and defended that by saying he promised his supporters when he was running for election in Texas that he would deny that. My God, that worries me about national defense tremendously.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you for your call. Let's move on to Marty in Skokie, calling us tonight at 1-800-723-8289. If you're watching this program, we're live streaming it only. It's not on radio. It's not on television. You are seeing it live on our BeyondTheBeltway.com and our YouTube channel. And again, we're taking reaction from all over the country, calling 1-800-723-8289. And let's go to Marty. Go ahead. You're on the air, Marty.
Good evening, Bruce. I'm just thinking that one of the most startling things that I heard tonight was that Carly Fiorina, who I don't really think of as a serious likelihood or having a serious likelihood of getting elected, but she says that our technology companies need only be asked to help them to help us with the encryption. They'll do it. But they're saying they've actually said the opposite, that the technology companies won't do that, and we've got to be able to get through and find out what these people who are planning to kill you and me and your grandchildren and my grandchildren are planning. And Fiorina just blew that out. I don't know how she could even say that. All you have to do is ask them.
Was there any other either foreign policy or a terrorism related issue? Did anybody give you any specificity as to how they would stop the threat of terrorism?
That was my other comment, and that is no. Coming out of this, watching these 9 people fight with each other, and too often it was fighting with each other and not over issues. I'm still coming away from this with not much clearer an idea of what they would do. How do they really differ on these issues? There are just too many candidates up there, and it's too confusing
But don't you believe that at least a part of this debate, and basically it was Rand Paul, primarily against much of the rest of the field, certainly against Marco Rubio and against Chris Christie, that the isolationist wing versus the internationalist wing, that is a real debate that needs to happen, and we saw a little bit of it maybe in 2 or 3 flourishes tonight.
Okay, I guess I would grant you that Rand Paul did set himself apart from really the other 8 people up there, saying we don't, in a sense, we don't need to defend America, or all we got to do is make our economy stronger and not be in debt, and then we'll be strong. To me, that's not a credible answer. We really do need to strengthen what they were talking about there, the triad. I know a young man who is flying a B-52. He's the captain of a B-52, the pilot of a B-52, and his plane is like 60 years old. I mean, it's had a lot of new parts put into it, but it's a 60-year-old airplane.
Are you, after watching this, I assume that maybe you've watched some other debates. Do you have a candidate that you're enthusiastic about tonight?
No, I don't have a candidate I'm enthusiastic about. I think to a certain extent, for me, it comes down between Rubio and Cruz. And actually, what I like about that, Bruce, is that these two candidates are absolutely very, very serious candidates. And what are they? They're both Hispanic. You know,
Yeah.
the Republicans are supposed to be the party that is anti-Hispanic, but two of our prime candidates are Hispanic, and really one of the leading candidates. Although tonight I thought I was very unimpressed with him, is Ben Carson, who's a black guy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we are the party of we, the Republicans, are the party of white upper class folks. But who are the main candidates
between you identified Rubio and Cruz, that you were sort of interested in both. Did any one of them get a leg up tonight in that battle for your heart and mind?
You know, I can't say that they really did. I think if I were voting today, if I were an Iowa caucus voter, I would probably vote for Cruz. I'm sorry, for Rubio, but I can't say that there was any moment of supreme clarity tonight where I thought,
Okay.
Oh man, that's our next president.
Marty, thank you very much for your call from Skokie, Illinois. Let's go to Doug in Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you for calling us on this special edition of Beyond the Beltway, 1-800-723-8289. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Thanks for having me. I just wanted to say that I really felt, and I've felt this for a while, that Carly Fiorina needs to be a part of whatever ticket gets put together, either as VP or president. She is the true outsider. She has action results or plans, you know, for pretty much everything that doesn't hit on some kind of Beltway accepted thing. Mm-hmm. I think she's amazing. Her closing statement was fantastic. I don't know. That's what I thought.
I think the question would be, who would she be a running mate with? I don't think she'd be a running mate with Donald Trump. Perhaps she could be a running mate with Ted Cruz. And, you know, I mean, we are several months away from picking running mates. But, again, I think there are many people early on. And here's another question I would ask of you, is because in the first couple of debates, she was really the star of the debate, including the debate where she was in the undercard. I mean, she propelled herself with her almost, you know, grand slam home runs that she hit in, I think, the second or third debate when she moved up from the kids' table to the primetime table. And she's had some really great debates. Tonight wasn't a great debate for her, but after great debate appearances, she's never been able to really take off. Is it because she's a woman? Can I ask, is it because she's a woman and Republican primary voters are not taking her seriously?
No, I don't think so. And actually, it's great that you brought that up, because this is what dawned on me tonight. When she does great is in a fight. She wins with her logic, cuts like a flamethrower in a fight. She doesn't do well on the morning talk show where it's all fluff and there's nobody to like really engage her. You know, but regarding your question about who would be the ticket, my choice would be Rubio Fiorina. A lot of people go like, well, yeah, but, you know, his, you know, immigration policy, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm sort of looking big picture. I think Rubio is the candidate that pretty much all of America is going to actually like and see as reasonable, and he always comes up with a action point that makes sense, as opposed to Trump, who just says trust me.
I think so, but I think the one thing I would say about Rubio, as I just sort of said about Carly Fiorina, when you look at the cosmetics of it, when you look at the fundraising, when you look at certainly the rhetorical skill sets that he brings and his articulation, I'm a little bit surprised that he's not doing better than he is. I mean, there isn't a debate that he's been in that he hasn't been really, I think, spectacular or very, very good. He's certainly been in one of the top, 1, 2, or 3 in virtually every debate, but he hasn't really propelled past some of the others. I mean, he's in third place or fourth place in a couple of places, but he's not in a domineering third place position.
Yeah, I guess all I can do is go on what people say and the things that they say and whether they make sense or not to me. And,
Sure.
and if they're not a Kardashian that gets everybody, excited and sexually whatever, then, but you know what? I'd take Cruz and Fiorina as well. That'd be great. I actually think that Cruz and Rubio are probably equally capable
Right.
of solving problems, etc. It just comes down to, who's going to win the publicity
Right.
contest.
It's going to be big. It's going to be important for us. And Doug, thank you very much. Let's move to Ted, who's listening to us in northern Illinois in the DeKalb area. Go ahead, Ted. You're on the air.
Hello, and I just wanted to say thank you for letting me speak. I'm calling in because I wanted to comment on something in particular. I think it is so important that we are talking about boots on the ground, and I'm glad one of my favorites, Governor Kasich, has called for it. We need to be taking it a step further, as Kasich has, and be considering coalition that includes conventional forces and not just special operations and foreign observers. And the reason that's important is because this is not the first time we have fought a pseudo-military force. We did in Afghanistan with the Taliban and al-Qaeda in 2001, and we went against them at Tora Bora with basically fighting by proxy. And it didn't work, and it doesn't work. And in retrospect, if we'd gone up the mountain and we'd used primarily American military forces and not fighting by proxy, we'd have taken heavy casualties, but we probably would have won the day in a more complete way than we did, and we might have captured bin Laden.
Is there anyone that you saw tonight that you think you can look at comfortably and say, that's someone that really could be commander-in-chief?
I think we saw a lot of people that way, sir.
Name them. Name them in the order that you would put them, if you can.
My top two right now, and I'm afraid I'm just I can't quite figure it out, would be Kasich and Rubio. I was a day one donor to Rubio's campaign. I'm a college student, and when I gave him money, I gave him $5, but I had $27 in my bank account. I really believed him, but at the same time, I've been so impressed by John Kasich, and I mentioned him because he's one of the people that has been calling for what I think is appropriate.
Right.
We need to not limit what we might be willing to do if it should come to that.
Very good. Well, listen, thank you very much for your call. We do appreciate it. Let's move west. Let's go to Karen listening to us in Los Angeles. Thank you for calling us at 1-800-723-8289 in this special edition of Beyond the Beltway tonight, coming to you on our website, beyondthebeltway.com. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, Bruce. How are you? Great to be on with you. What a remarkable evening it was yet again. I thought, what I keep coming away from these thinking is, while I don't like some of them, we have such an amazing array of candidates. And I'm so thrilled we don't have to choose between somebody who should be in jail and somebody who's a communist. It's wonderful, just for starters. I also thought that the questions from this debate were better than they normally have been, and we really had the opportunity to see real differences between the candidates. While, yes, CNN kept trying to set up cage matches between Trump and everybody, and Trump and Bush, and Rubio and Cruz, and so on, a number of questions did aim at getting to differences in their stances, and I think that that's really important. Actually talking about their worldviews being so different, how one approach would be different from another, which way would make us safer, what to do about Syria and ISIS and immigration. And it felt like we finally were able to see what they actually thought, so that now we can evaluate from what we heard who we thought would be best. Where never before had I really walked away thinking, now I know what this candidate thinks.
Here's a question. This is an issue of just sort of the visual presentation that people saw tonight, and that is, it seemed to me that the split screen was used more involving Donald Trump than most of the other candidates. And what you
Yeah,
frequently saw is you saw a facial gyration, a smirk, a raising of the eyebrows. You saw a political response, if you will, a visual response. In most cases, probably wasn't a very favorable thing, but it perpetuated an image of Donald Trump as being somewhat dismissive or rude or disrespectful of other candidates. But we didn't see that split screen used for many other interactions with other candidates. Would you agree with that? Are you picking up what I'm trying to
that's
articulate?
a great point. Absolutely. And thinking about it, yes, very much so. And you're absolutely right about the impression that he conveyed. And given that he's been doing this a number of times now, you'd think he would be a little bit more cautious about his absolutely dismissive smirkiness. I did notice it when they pitted Marco Rubio against Ted Cruz.
Yes, because I mean there was a real debate going on there, and there was
Right.
an intellectual exchange of ideas as opposed to basically, and you usually saw it when Jeb Bush was up there with Trump, because I think the distaste that Trump and Bush have for each other, I mean, it just permeates through the TV screen, I think.
It really does. And
Do
the
you
other
agree, by the
thing
way,
that-
Karen? Let me ask you this. I said just a few moments ago, I thought this was Jeb Bush's maybe his best debate. Would you agree with that?
I've often come away more impressed with him than I expect to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought he did do very well, but it's not the first time I felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time I also felt that way. And each time it really surprises me. Every time I think, okay, this is where, the final nail in the coffin for Jeb Bush. I do think he held up very well. He stood up for himself very well. He had what I thought was one of the best lines in there, which is, "You can't insult your way to the White House."
Yes, that was a good line.
That was terrific. And there's some who do need to go, and I always think Jeb is one of them before the debates, and then he does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I still don't support him for president, but I don't think he damages things, and he does make some interesting points.
Karen, who based on tonight and based maybe on the past, who is your candidate at the moment, and how solid are you for either her or them? Or him.
Right. Well, now that Bobby Jindal is gone, my preferred candidate at this point, and it's hard for me to say because I know so many people who don't like him, but Rubio is my number one guy. If it's Cruz, I would also be absolutely thrilled. But between the two of them, I just give Marco Rubio a little bit more of the edge there.
Do you believe, and by the way, for those who are watching tonight who are not regular listeners to Beyond the Beltway, Beyond the Beltway, this program can be seen right where it is on beyondthebeltway.com every Sunday night between 6 and 8 p.m. Central Time. We do a 2-hour program with phone calls, generally with 4 guests around the table. And I have said on that program, and I want to get your reaction to this, Karen, I have said, in my view, there's only 3 people who can be elected president of the United States, given the dynamic we have in the country. One is Hillary Clinton, one is Marco Rubio, and one is Donald Trump. I believe that Donald Trump, conceivably, with everything that he has said and all the negative baggage that's out there, I think he is touching a nerve. Do you agree with those 3? Would you take anyone off that list? And let's first of all talk about, obviously you say you're for Rubio, so you obviously agree that you think he should be on that list. Do you think Donald Trump is electable?
I don't think he's electable.
Okay.
I guess I would go a little bit further and say I hope he's not electable.
Okay.
If our election comes down to Hillary versus Donald Trump, I really don't know what this country is anymore. And it chills me to think that a woman who should be in jail would be selected by the Democrats to be their nominee, given everything that we know, and we know it. given everything that we know about how she compromised our national security, and that's just for starters.
Right. I should mention also, by the way, for those that have not heard the Sunday night show we did, I have said that I think that Ted Cruz is nominatable, but I don't think that Ted Cruz is electable. I think he's very bright. I think he may be too ideological to be elected, but most importantly, I just don't think he is personable enough to be elected.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you look at Rubio and you look at Cruz, you know, on a likability level. And I'm talking about people that vote, you know, that it isn't just the people that, you know, watch programs like this and read all the political blogs, the very politically sophisticated. I think people that make decisions in elections sometimes are casual observers of the scene. And I just think that Rubio, I think he presents himself in a more telegenic way, and because of that, I would put him in the high up in the likability category, and certainly higher than I would Senator Cruz. But Senator Cruz obviously is a true believer, and there's a lot of people that may disagree with that. But Karen, thank you very much for your call. Our phone number is 1-800-723-8289. If you have just tuned into this live video stream, this is a special edition of Beyond the Beltway. We're a regular Sunday night program in America. Tonight we decided to do something special because of the CNN debate. We wanted to put something as a live video stream where people all over the country could call into a live radio program or streaming program. We're usually a radio program as well, but again, no radio stations are carrying this. This is all on the internet. But again, the phone lines open 1-800-723-8289. Let's go to Rick in Chicago. Go ahead. You're on this special edition of Beyond the Beltway.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. So first of all, I just want to say that I think Jeb Bush really showed up tonight. I think in the past several months, we really haven't seen much of him, and I think that his campaign's actually been floundering a little bit.
Yep.
But tonight, I think he really took it to Trump. Something I noticed, the candidates who really stood out seemed to be the ones who sort of targeted one other candidate throughout the night, and they stuck to that candidate.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you saw Jeb and Trump. You saw Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. You saw Rand Paul and Chris Christie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the people left in the background a little more were like Ben Carson and John Kasich, and even Carly Fiorina, who actually reminded me quite a bit of Jim Webb in this debate, in the sense that she kept saying that she wanted to have her opportunity to speak.
Right. No, she really was. She sort of faded into the woodwork more so than any other, debate. And I would also say that I think as the recent polls in Iowa and nationally have shown that Ben Carson's best days are behind him. I don't think we saw anything tonight that would really recharge his credibility. He did seem to be a little more knowledgeable. He threw out more facts when it came to international affairs and some military issues, but clearly someone who had done his homework, as one you would think would do before a debate, although that seems to never be an issue with Donald Trump. I really believe, I don't think Donald Trump preps or studies or plans or rehearses for debates at all. I think he's a guy that goes in and wings it, and I think frequently it shows that he wings it. I think he has the ability to maybe underscore some of his points, albeit even the controversial points. I think he could probably come up with 2 or 3 other points that would maybe demonstrate that he's got a little more depth than just strong shoot from the hip, or shoot from the lip rhetoric. But and yet he continues to survive, and we'll see what the results of the poll are. We should mention, this is the last debate, Republican debate of 2015. The Democrats will have a debate this coming week on Saturday night in New Hampshire, where Hillary Clinton has a substantial national lead. She's also a tighter race in New Hampshire as well, but we'll see the results of this race. But the next big time that we're probably going to be talking about, Republicans getting together, it'll be probably one more time before the Iowa caucuses, which are on February 1st of 2016. Let's go to Rick in Chicago. You're on this special edition of Beyond the Beltway. Nice to have you with us tonight. 1-800-723-8289 if you want to sound off on the Republican debate from Las Vegas this evening. Go ahead, Rick.
All right. Well, thanks again for the intro. So, like I said, I really do think that the candidates tended to stick to one other person throughout the night. I thought you did a great job of explaining just now Trump's strategy. He's love him or hate him, he's a very charismatic guy, so he can just kind of wing it when it comes to this sort of thing. Some of the other candidates, not as much. Like you just mentioned, Ben Carson, he really didn't catch my attention throughout the night. He was a little quieter. He didn't have that same sense of passion that some of the other candidates did have. With that said, I thought another thing that I noticed was that not too many issues were really discussed in tonight's debate. You heard ISIS being brought up countless times. The immigration debate was brought up several times as well. And then, of course, there was the whole NSA surveillance issue that was brought up. But other than that, I really didn't hear too many other issues being brought up from the Republican side. I suppose those are just the three hot-button ones for them tonight.
But, Rick, let me ask you this question. As a voter, what is it that you would like a candidate for president to say about fighting the type of terrorism that we witnessed in San Bernardino, California? What can a politician say to make you sleep a little more comfortably at night, if anything?
Honestly, when it comes to attacks like that, I think at times, they're very difficult to predict. I mean, it's easy for anyone to just say, oh, they're the president, they should be able to protect us at any and all time. But I honestly don't find that to be the case. With that said, I understand that, as tragic and as melancholy as it sounds, these things do happen in the world. So, as far as, sleeping well at night, I just kind of live my life as it is. Yeah. But in terms of, what would make me feel more comfortable would be a candidate in general who has a very clear plan. And that's another thing that I didn't necessarily get from any of the candidates. A lot of them said, oh, we're going to go bomb ISIS. Well, it's not just, straightforward, let's bomb them, let's get rid of them. There are a lot of various factors and variables.
Right. I think the other thing, by the way, just sort of in summary, to sort of try to answer the question that I just asked, and that is, it seems to me, and this is one of the things that I think that has led to Donald Trump's popularity and the popularity of the outsiders, is it's the issue of saying things about an issue, and then there's an event that takes place over which that candidate had no control at all, and it feeds that person's narrative. It raises the anger or the frustration or the feeling that the government is incompetent. A couple of examples. Donald Trump began his campaign by talking about illegal immigration and made those comments about Mexicans, sort of lumping many of them all together, although he didn't say all of them. But again, the juxtaposition of murderers and rapists, in talking about Mexicans, the bad Mexicans coming into this country, certainly it set a tone that obviously offended a lot of people, not just Hispanics. But then in the wake of that, Kate Steinle is murdered by an illegal immigrant in San Francisco. So that once again perpetuates a story that Donald Trump knew nothing about when he announced for president. And then 10 days later, the number one drug dealer in the world escapes from a Mexican prison. Again, totally out of his control. And then there's the shooting in Paris. And then there's the shooting in San Bernardino. And all of these issues, they are feeding a narrative of a frustrated, angry Americans. They're frustrated, with their leadership. And part of, I think, the Trump popularity it's anti-Republican Washington leadership as much as it is the Obama administration. I think they're fed up with Republican leaders that aren't defending them and fighting for the things that are important to them. And so all these frustrations that are out there, Donald Trump is being moved along by many of these issues, and that's why I think, being first out there by saying something, even his comments about Muslims. I mean, that came in the wake of one of the weakest addresses by a president last Sunday night, which was many days late after the San Bernardino situation. And then you have a realization by the FBI saying that it was a terrorist. They were investigating terrorism. And then I think maybe the greatest absurdity of all is you have the president looking at these pictures of the Syrian refugees, saying, let's bring them into the country at a time when he is saying to the American people, his leadership and his administrators are saying, we can vet these people. And yet, they have their eyes closed, and they have proven to the world that they don't know how to vet a couple coming to the United States, pledged to ISIS, who has a track record on the internet with Facebook that they never even checked. She went through the process. She made it through the cracks. She made it through the system that is in place. And she came to the United States with her husband, who was born in Chicago, and they killed 14 people in California. And this is a system that now is going to be under review. Secretary of State John Kerry, who was interviewed last Sunday when he was halfway across the world worrying about, climate control that's going to kill us in the next 100 years, he basically was saying, well, maybe we really should review the process of screening that doesn't take into consideration Facebook and looking at what people have to say on Facebook, because we have an administration that refuses to address and deal with issues of political correctness. It's like the person who failed to report the couple in San Bernardino. She didn't want to call the local authorities because she was fearful that someone would view her as an Islamophobe. It's this mindset that is out there, and between now and the time that people vote on February 1st, in Iowa or New Hampshire or Nevada or South Carolina, the first four places where Republican voters are going to be able to go out there, we may have four separate winners in those primaries. But it's the anger that the American people have. I think anger is the common denominator that is running through many of the campaigns. And again, they are part of this frustration they have with Washington is against anyone with basically Washington experience or even any political experience at all. Because I think too many people in the country are saying, you know what? If the smartest people in the world have given us the world we live in, maybe it's time we try someone that is not too smart. Maybe they have street smarts. Maybe they have common sense, and maybe that makes more sense. And I think that's part of the frustration, and it's part of the appeal of Donald Trump. And to some extent, I think one of the great fears that the Republican establishment has, I think the Republican establishment is far more fearful of Ted Cruz than they are of Donald Trump. I really believe that. Because I think the establishment may say, you know what, Donald Trump may not believe everything he has to say. He's a blowhard. He's a business guy. But as he said in the Fox News interview on Sunday, he can cajole. He can work a room. I mean, that's how we got. He's a master of the deal. He's a deal maker. He's a business guy. Whereas working with a populist who can roll with the punches, that's a lot easier to do, even if you're a member of the establishment. Because they're somewhat predictable, as opposed to working with an ideologue who, as Donald Trump said, when he walked into the United States Senate, he decided he was going to kick over the apple cart and to go from the least popular person in the United States Senate to the presidency doesn't make it easier to change the climate in Washington. So that's that's some of the things where we are. But listen, thank you very much for joining us and your call tonight. We are going to end our broadcast, or not our streamcast. We can't say it's a broadcast. But again, we thank you very much for joining us. If you've not listened to Beyond the Beltway, we are here every Sunday night at beyondthebeltway.com. We're on America's great radio stations, many of them. We're on Sirius and XM satellite radio. And if you're in Chicago, we're on WYCC, the public television station. And also, we're on the Comcast Channel 100. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Bruce Dumont. Good night from Chicago.